The Silk Road. Silk had already been traded between China and Central Asia during the Han Dynasty. The demand for silk led to the development of the Silk Roads, a network of trade routes that connected East and West. The Sasanian Persian Empire had a monopoly of the Silk Route between China and the Byzantine Empire. There was tension and war between the Sasanians and the Byzantines. In the mid-6th century, Emperor Justinian sent 2 monks to China who, under the guise of an imperial delegation, the monks stole silkworm eggs and mulberry plants. They smuggled them out of China. The monks hid them in bamboo canes. They took it back to Constantinople, where a domestic silk industry emerged and became the pillar of the Byzantine economy. Between 618 and 907, the Tang Dynasty reunified China and silk commerce increased. Chinese weavers began to adopt Sogdian and Persian-style patterns. Sogdian were Aryans or Iranic peoples on the Silk Road between present-day Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. They were talented merchants, artisans, entertainers, and farmers. They were key trade intermediaries between China and Persia. The Sogdian and Chinese artisans lived in different parts of Asia. They created textile designs that became high demand, especially in Europe. Around 100 Sogdian textiles between the 7th and 10th centuries have been found in European graves and churches. By the 750s, Sogdians established commercial ties with Uyghur Turks, then in Mongolia. Uyghurs became an important neighbor to China, and they influenced silk production and commerce in China and Central Asia from the mid-8th to 15th centuries. Muslim merchants also became an important catalyst in the silk trade. By the 9th century, Muslims established communities in China under the Tang Dynasty and transmitted silk to Central and West Asia. But by the middle of the 8th century, the Tang Dynasty began to decline. Buddhist monasteries were amassing wealth through tax exemptions from the courts and lavish gifts such as silk banners and sutra covers. In 907, the Tang Dynasty fell. Foreigners established their own Chinese-style dynasties on Chinese territory. There was the Mongolian Khitans, who established the Liao Dynasty, the Tibetan Tanguts, and the Manchurian Jurchens. The Uyghurs had also fallen, and they scattered throughout North China, Manchuria, Mongolia, and Central Asia. The Song Dynasty emerged in 960 and decided to make commercial and diplomatic relations to diffuse tensions between the Khitans and the Tanguts. Silk became a valuable instrument in Song foreign relations. Chinese silk was so prized that foreigners kept peace with China in order to obtain it. Merchants from oasis spots on the Silk Road came to China with horses, camels, jade, lapis, carpets to trade for silk, brocade, tea, lacquerware, and gold. In Central Asia, the Islamic Karakhane dynasty brought order to the warring Turkic peoples, but it took time for silk transport to reach the same levels as the Tang dynasty. Under the Song dynasty, seaborne commerce increased. Arab and Persian merchants started to settle in southeast China. Guangzhou was the first site of Islamic communities, but Quanzhou, the modern province of Fujian, became the largest Muslim community and the center of trade in West Asia. Commercialization, urbanization, and trade led to the increase in wealth. Silk became more widely available, and silk production and trade continued under the Tangut and Jin's dynasties. By 1234, the Jins had been destroyed, and all of China was conquered by the Mongols. The Mongols brutally massacred 11% of the world's population, about 37 to 60 million people in Eurasia. Their empire stretched from China to Europe. The Mongols adopted the Uyghur script for writing. Chinggis Khan, the ruthless Mongolian leader, took thousands of Islamic weavers from Central Asia and resettled them into China. Muslim textile weavers were experts at weaving gold cloth. In 1278, the Office of Gold Textiles was established. Mongols valued commerce and traded with Eurasia. Chinggis Khan's son, Ogedai's armies occupied Korea, North China, Georgia, Armenia, and Russia, and campaigns as far away as Hungary and Poland. Ogedai's nephew, Kublai Khan, emerged to become the most influential of Mongol leaders. He elevated the status of merchants, paper money, backed by silk, was traded. Loans and capital were offered to traders at low interest. Kublai valued textiles, especially silk. Silk was given to nobles as payment, used as currency, tribute, gifts, and rewards. Mongols valued silk that was woven with gold thread, or nashi. They used as robes, headdresses, girdles, belts, linings in their tents, wagon coverings, and their clothing. By 1257, silk had arrived in Italy. In Europe, churches were the repositories of silk. By the 14th century, Central Asian, Persian, and Chinese motifs and pattern silks were models for Italian silks. By the late 1300s, Mongol Khanates were weakened. In 1368, Hongwu, the first emperor of the Ming Dynasty, reverted China to native rule. He and his successors focused on limiting foreign relations, not trade. But Emperor Yongle reversed isolationism policies. He moved China's capital to Beijing and dispatched embassies abroad. The Muslim Zheng He led naval expeditions to Southeast Asia, Persia, Africa, and the Americas. Diplomat Chang Qing traveled to present-day Afghanistan and asked Tamerlane's son Shahrukh in Herat to send a mission to Yongle's court. Under Emperor Yongle, trade revitalized and commerce in silk expanded. Central Asia once again became Chinese textile recipients. In 1424, Yongle Emperor died and his expansionist policies came to an end. The number of embassies abroad were reduced and trade restrictions re-emerged. Economic exchange was discouraged. Then, a new sea route from Europe to China was discovered, and the reliance of the Silk Road for trade dwindled. But silk was still an important textile in Europe, around the world, and until today. Like and follow for more.